So, what if a single military strike could actually trigger a global economic reset? Today, we're going to dive into a really detailed, speculative scenario for the year 2026, a hypothetical black swan event. We're going to trace the dominoes from that one single action to its world-altering consequences, all based on a pretty fascinating geopolitical analysis.
All right, so where does all this come from? Well, the source for our explainer is this report right here, Black Swan 2026. It's a comprehensive what-if analysis from Paul and Thakur, and it meticulously maps out how one geopolitical event could just ripple through global energy markets, the Indian economy, and, believe it or not, ultimately redefine real estate investment strategy.
And really, the entire scenario we're about to unpack, it all hangs on this one very provocative question. Could a single targeted military strike completely unravel the balance of an entire region and send these massive shockwaves across the rest of the globe?
So, let's get into it. How does it all begin? Well, the scenario starts on a very specific date, March 1st, 2026, with a single, you could say, catastrophic trigger event.
Okay, so the report lays out this hypothetical decapitation strike, and it's even codenamed Operation Lion's Roar. It's on Tehran, and it confirms the death of Iran's supreme leader. The result is instantaneous. You've got a massive power vacuum inside Iran, and that's immediately followed by a swift and pretty overwhelming retaliatory missile barrage against U.S. bases and key infrastructure all across the Persian Gulf.
So what happens inside Iran? Well, the immediate aftermath is just pure chaos. The scenario suggests that with the leadership gone, the country is plunged into a constitutional crisis. Now, the report argues this could easily escalate into a full-blown civil war, and it even cites some historical analysis that points to a long, fragmented opposition that just doesn't have a single unifying leader to take control.
And this internal chaos, well, it doesn't stay contained. No way. It immediately spills across Iran's borders, shattering the decades-long stability of the entire Gulf region.
And the consequences for Iran's neighbors are immediate. You've got Gulf states like the UAE and Qatar that are suddenly caught in this sandwich dilemma, stuck between their U.S. allies on one side and a furious Iran on the other. With reports of explosions near civilian hubs and airspace closing down, the region's long-held status as a safe haven for business and tourism, well, that just shatters overnight.
Then comes the economic fallout, and it is immediate and severe. The scenario predicts a total supply blockade at the world's most critical oil choke point, the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking 20% of the world's oil trade paralyzed. This sends crude prices soaring into the $150 to $200 per barrel range, unleashing what the report calls a global inflation tsunami.
Okay, so what does all of this mean for India? This regional crisis creates this massive two-front problem. One is intensely human, and the other is purely economic.
First, let's just talk about the human element. The report highlights this absolutely staggering number, 9 million. That's how many Indian citizens live and work in the Gulf. This instability creates the potential for the largest, most complex mass evacuation in modern history. Think about that. And this is what creates that two-front crisis for India. You see, on one side, you have the immense logistical nightmare of the Great Evacuation. And on the other, the economy faces a severe stress test. Soaring oil prices and super high demand for US dollars cause a dramatic devaluation of the rupee.
But right here in the middle of all this crisis, the analysis pivots. It argues that all of this chaos actually creates a unique, maybe once-in-a-generation investment opportunity, and it calls it the Great Capital Reversal. So what's the logic here? It starts with something pretty basic. Rising fuel costs and broken supply chains mean that construction costs go through the roof. This, in turn, makes existing inventory, buildings that are already standing, far more valuable. And the key thunker insight here is that in these super inflationary periods, hard assets like real estate are going to dramatically outperform just holding cash. And this right here leads us to the core investment thesis of the whole report. The scales just tip. Capital flees the now volatile Gulf markets. At the exact same time, returning non-resident Indians bring a ton of liquidity and a sudden surge in housing demand back home. This creates a massive safe haven shift of investment capital, all heading towards Indian metro real estate with a specific focus on the Mumbai and Thane regions.
So, the analysis then crystallizes all of this into a clear three-step action plan for investors. Number 1, don't panic, pivot. Shift your focus from those volatile foreign markets to domestic hard assets. 2, hedge against inflation by using real estate to lock in your value. And number 3, anticipate the return. Get ready for that wave of returning NRI capital.
Okay, finally, the scenario zooms out one last time to consider the really profound, long-term consequences of a strike like this on the entire global system. What would the world actually look like after all the dust settles? And the outcome it presents isn't just some regional realignment, it's a fundamental reset of global power. A new Pax Americana, a period of relative peace enforced by American dominance, is asserted through technological superiority. These preemptive strikes become a dangerous new precedent, really eroding international law. And it becomes crystal clear that modern wars can be won with cyber and AI before a single missile is even fired.
And so this entire speculative analysis, from the initial strike all the way to the global fallout, it leaves us with one final and frankly chilling question to ponder about the future it imagines. Is this the end of an old conflict, or is it the violent beginning of a new and much more dangerous world?